So welcome back to our project development operations. I am, again, Professor Sean Watts. I wanted to start this afternoon with just a review of some of the key points that we went through so far in a little bit more detail since there are some questions. Again, all of you need to make your project development plans, including processes. We're going to talk about that quite a bit soon. And the basic details of your business plan. In my opinion, the basic details are who, what, where, when, and why. That 5 W's and the how, that information is the basics of everything. But you should also remember you are an obstacle because you're only thinking of what you like. You should be thinking about what the customers like. So answer these 15 questions at the beginning of answering 100 to 150 reasonable questions about your business. And as soon as you feel confident answering many of these, go ahead and start your business. So again, what exactly is your product? Why use your product, not competitors? Who specifically is going to use it because they have already been using some other competitor's product for a long time? What is your competitive advantage? How are you going to operate it? How much are you going to charge? A lot of the financing details we're going to talk about now. And then we're going to get into the marketing and the basic analysis. So this morning we talked again about the 5 forces. Those 5 forces are critical because you must have something unique. You must have some competitive advantage. If you don't always focus and get all of your staff and all of your business focused on one, at least one very key competitive advantage, how you are better than everybody else, there's no reason for people to go to you. So those 5 forces that you could think of and you need to consider are the threat of new entrants, the threat of the bargaining power of buyers, the threat of bargaining power of suppliers, the threat of other products and services, and just rivalry among other competitors. So we've gone through that. We've identified there are several financial statements, startup costs, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement. We understand the basic details of all of these. It's listed here. We went through quite a bit of the income statement details. The idea of the start requirements, what we're talking about there is any money you need and any expense you're going to have to actually start your business until regular sales makes enough money to continue paying for all bills on its own. And that point is called the break-even analysis. It's very, very important to understand that. So all of your startup costs until you break even and are able to manage on your own, that needs to be shown clearly. And then the balance sheet, that idea of how it's going to be financed and talk about a specific point in time, talking about your assets and liabilities and the owner's equity, which is talking about what you are investing in the business. It doesn't have to just be cash. It often is, but it doesn't have to be. It can be your time. It can be your management, especially if you're going to do it with partners. And then the idea of cash flow statements, that idea of where is the cash going? Where is cash coming in? Where is cash going out? You must monitor that all the time. Right at the beginning, of course, there's going to be a lot of cash going out, that cash drain, until you become profitable, as we said again. So we talked about this, reviewing this, that idea of basically all entrepreneurs should never really have to pay taxes. However, they do pay taxes because they have to keep the government happy, and they want to, once they're making a profit, help contribute to paying for the roads, the schools, the healthcare of the country. Your expenses can always be adjusted by yourself, and you can increase if you have more profit one year rather than paying taxes. You can just use some of that to increase your expenses so that the next year will do even better or grow even bigger. That idea a lot of people don't talk about in basic accounting classes, but as an entrepreneur, you should be aware of it. We talked about any income statement has your basically net sales, cost of goods sold, your gross profit, selling expenses, a variety of expenses, and then you get down to your interest and tax expenses and net income. Closely monitor those. There is sometimes a formula that is normal for an industry. For example, as we said in the manufactured products, we talked about those details. We showed some examples of income statements, and you see here that there's two different columns, for example, and don't confuse these with your version of reality versus the version you're going to be reporting to the government. You should just have one set of books properly. That is generally best to avoid problems, especially if you're going to be audited and inspected by quite a few people. But these two rows, one is the finals and one is just the small details within each area. For example, you may have several small costs within your cost of goods sold, and then your labor costs, wage costs, supplies costs, all of those things would be your costs of goods sold, and then you just total it over here. Some people say for your fixed operating cost, there's the USAIIRDO, that idea of always you'll have some costs that are generally the same. Your utilities is generally the same. Salaries would generally be the same. Advertising, basic advertising would be the same. Insurance, interest, rent, depreciation. Some of these fees are always going to be the same, and you have to cover them as soon as you start getting your sales revenue to cover those. That is one of the most important parts of your business plan that you must be monitoring. And you're probably not going to be covering all of these things regularly, maybe in your first month or maybe your first 3 months. Some people, some textbooks say you might not be able to cover it up until your third year. However, those people have been trained before we had the internet, before we had the idea that you can create a business completely online without any real costs to yourself. So some books like the 4-Hour Work Week, which I highly recommend, talk about how you should be able to start making a profit within a few months or 6 months at best, because you can advertise things in Facebook, get customers to provide deposits for some of your products in certain times, certain areas. Use that deposit to contract with a manufacturer to make things for you. It may not cost you anything at all. Have things shipped from the factory to the customer. Those type of things are increasingly popular, together with drop shipping and things. And then we have the more details of like a restaurant balance sheet, since several of you are working with food, whether it's the milk tea, bubble tea, the Burger King, the Temple restaurant, or even the non-alcoholic beer, craft beer details. It's all generally the same related to a restaurant balance sheet. So here are some examples. Make sure you have for sure the exact date that you're going to be having it, and the different assets that you have, your liabilities that you have, the short-term liabilities, long-term liabilities. Short-term is anything that you have to pay back generally within a year. Long-term is anything longer than that year. And then what you are going to be investing, that should total. So the bottom part totals the top part. So here's another example of the balance sheet with more details in it. Hope you guys can see this. I can make it a little bit bigger. Here we go to make this bigger. So with the balance sheet, again, you have to have it as of a certain date and the name of your organization. Your assets is a key part. Then you have two other parts, the liabilities and owner's equity. All of these things must balance out. You may not be investing $10 million to start with. Some of you may be doing more than that. For example, with the um, big businesses or real estate businesses, it could add up very, very quickly. So make sure you understand and have in current assets, cash, marketable securities. If you have this, accounts receivable, inventory, current assets, again, the assets within a certain amount of time, fixed assets that are not usually going to change, plant and equipment, all of these related to assets, total those, and it should be the same amount as how much you have to pay or how much you have invested in. We have that. Cash flow statements, it's the statement that shows how you're going to be able to survive day after day, month after month. When you're starting your business, this is probably going to be one of the most important, your startup costs and your cash flow statement, because you are going to have to spend a lot of cash to promote your business at the beginning before you get a lot of cash flowing into you. So a lot of cash, as we said, is going to flow out or be a cash drain. That idea is very important. You need to market yourself a lot because nobody knows of you, nobody has heard of you. Everybody that is a potential customer has been buying from some other supplier, maybe for 10 or 20 years or 50 years. Why are they going to switch to you? It's going to be hard to get them to switch to you. So you need to have several different events or activities to catch their attention and convince them to switch from their old supplier to you. So this is talking about those details. Now we're going to start talking about the idea of the processes. As we talked about earlier, we know that there's many components of your business that need to be broken down. For example, you're going to make a business plan. When are you going to hire? That one more time. When are you going to start hiring people? When are you going to start marketing? When are you going to start manufacturing? When are you going to start getting the government control? All of those things should be written down in something like this. For example, do you do it in week 1 or do you do it in week 12 at the end of the year? And so for you guys, you shouldn't just have a chart saying week 1, 2, 3 up to 13. You should have a chart saying from week 1 up to the 36th month of your business, and try to identify many different components. This is a very simple summary of details, just activity A, B, C, D, summary events of E, F, G. This is up to you. But the administration in Sunderland, they want to see this. They want to see you have a chart. They want to see you have thought of everything you need for your business plan, but not just the general ideas. They want to know, when are you going to start this and when are you going to do something else? Because if you don't plan it and break it down, if you start hiring everybody right at the very beginning and you haven't actually got a lot of marketing done, or you haven't actually created your product yet, or even established your contracts with your suppliers yet, all of your money is going to disappear onto staff salaries that are sitting doing nothing. So you should only hire a few staff or one staff at the beginning to help you perhaps with marketing, and then hire another staff to help with setting up the suppliers or the engineering or some key details. So this is going to take quite a bit of time. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this today. Overall, again, this is just a review. The main points: start with the simplest thing and just make it more and more detailed. If you can get a business plan from the other side of the world, good. That could start as a simple summary of information for you. But you must keep going until you know more about details than anybody else. And of course, we're focused on your local business. All of these details must go through with it. And do you guys remember, why do we have this picture of this Scrooge McDuck on one side, and why do we have the picture of the Pink Panther on the other side? You remember what I was saying about that? How about Uyan Lam? Do you remember why I have those fun cartoons at the bottom? What they represent?
Lâm Nguyên ạ, thầy gọi Lâm Nguyên ạ.
If she's not here, what about Vong?
Miss Cấm ạ. Vuông.
Let's pick anybody that's been quiet so far. Go ahead, Tuong. Pick anybody that's been quiet to try to describe these two cartoons. Why do I have those cartoons there?
Cái Vương, Vượng ạ. Thầy gọi Vượng ạ. Vũ Đức Vượng ạ. Are you here?
Yeah, maybe I can answer this question.
Good, thank you, Mr. Yu. Thank you for saving our time. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's like last time you told us. It's very important. It's confidence. It's not depend you. Yeah, who you are and what is your position, but it depends so much on confidence. If you have confidence, you have plan and do every research relating your plan, and it's make you successful. And right. I think it's a meaning. Yeah.
Right. So nobody is born a perfect entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are made, not born. And one way that they're made is by planning. We can plan the financial details. We can plan the marketing details. We can plan some of the operation details. We need to plan the processes of all of these things. But even the idea of how you look and how you act is important. If you're recruiting staff and you're really worried about everything all the time, maybe staff are not going to want to join you. Same thing. When you are making your plan, you're probably going to have to make a plan for getting money. The UK assessors want you to plan how you're going to be able to get more money invested in you, whether you borrow from a bank or get money from family. They want to see how can you manage borrowing money. And if you just walk in, if you don't have a plan, probably you're not going to get in it unless it's a rich boyfriend or girlfriend is giving you money. Realistically, you don't get in it. So you can plan how you can not just get money from having your financials written down, your marketing written down, your list of customers, all of that details can be written down, but you can also plan to look good and act good during those meetings. These cartoons are showing that. If you are supposed to hire important staff or meet with investors or present your business plan at the end of this time, you should, for 2 or 3 minutes before the meeting, stand with your arms open wide and your legs open wide. Stand like a boxer that just won the boxing match, or an Olympic athlete. Almost all Olympic athletes, when they win, they are putting their hands up. Biologically, that changes your hormones and your brain, so it makes more testosterone, estrogen, cortisol. It creates more happiness and more confidence by just having your body open. And the opposite is also true. If your arms are crossed, or if you're hiding your neck and protecting your heart and the inner parts of your body, that makes your body a little more quiet, a little more afraid, less confident. So that is basically related to your caveman instincts. Maybe when you're battling the dinosaurs, whether you are running and hiding, flight, or you are fighting, the fight or flight method. So before your business plan, try to grow your confidence. If you're not confident naturally because you've practiced a lot, just spread your arms and legs for a while. Maybe talk into the mirror, go into the bathroom and do it. Do not sit with your legs crossed and your arms crossed, because the research shows it will make you more nervous. So all of that stuff you can plan. Everything from the competitive advantage, of course, your investors, market research, your SWOT analysis, the financials. Make sure everything is in the language for the customers, and have good references. As a minimum, have reference to a Google Drive folder that you can share with other people to see these details. And if you trust them, allow them in so that they can check. What did you miss? Do you need to revise something? Because the more you survey, the better. This is not related to textbooks. This is just related to experience working with many entrepreneurs. Put it in writing. The more you put it in writing, the higher the chance that you will be successful. It's almost the exact same thing as the more money you invest in it, the more chances, the more likely that you will be successful. Provided, number one, you have a written business plan. Make sure you understand the customers. That's most important, especially nowadays with online information analytics. Number three, we're going to be doing soon that idea of planning your time. A BERT chart and a Gantt chart, you must understand. When are you going to start hiring? Are you going to hire everybody, or are you going to break it down? When are you going to start marketing? How much are you going to spend on marketing from the beginning? All of those details you need to write down. When are you going to start? When are you going to stop? And always, you guys, there's 18 people in our group right now. You guys may be the best sources of help and information for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years, because you're all connected, you're all trying to manage businesses, you're all basically doing the same thing. You need information about customers. So share this stuff together. So start sharing yourself with others, but try to get the best people around you possible. Surround yourself with the best people, like a board member or advisors, successful entrepreneurs, as soon as you can. Nothing is going to help your success as much as being around good people, working with good people. And this is the base from the university. We see here at the bottom, the idea of you need to have an outline for project specifications, factors that contribute to your product and the process, the specification for how you're going to start implementing it, your project plan, you're getting resources and financing for each of those things, all the way over to the costs of each thing and implementing it, your time scales. That's getting again into the PERT chart and Gantt chart. Make sure you show this in your 36 months. What is the time scale for implementing these details? So we're going to focus on this part of number 2, time scales soon. Plan the strategy for when you're going to implement it. It's basically the same thing, but more detailed. Implement the project, start doing it, not just the plan, and then measure and monitor and evaluate details. Are things going as planned? Because if things are not, if you're not checking, you may need to completely start all over unless you can revise, check, and monitor as you're going. Monitor that implementation. The idea of all of this stuff is pretty key. Don't just make a business plan. Because we're still relatively new, whatever your idea is, write it down, solidify it, make a new copy of it, and then start deleting details to make it better. Because you must show you have made changes, you've made improvements from the original version. Otherwise, you won't be able to pass this course. So, and present all of this at the end in 3,000 words, 20 slides. So this is just a summary of the main details. So with that said, we're finally finished. Slide 1.
Professor, can we ask some students to make sure they are clear about the requirement of the report?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yes. So can I ask the group 1?
Yes.
Group 1.
Yes.
So are you sure what you have to do in for the requirement of the course? So at the end of the course, what should you do? What should you get achieve for this course?
Pardon, can you repeat the question, Mr.? What do you mean by what do you get?
On December 11, what do you have to give me? What do you have to show me to pass this class?
By on our task is we will have to give you words that contain 3,000 words with this line.
Of what?
Yeah.
Of what? So 3,000 words and 20 slides of what?
Of our project plan, which related to business that we suggest at the first lesson.
Okay, good. Thank you. That is correct. However, there is a chance that you can make 3,000 words and you could still fail this class. The only thing that you need for this class is what I'm showing on this slide right now. You need to, number one, show evidence for developing project specifications. So you need to show me some of your slides, some of your words have to be an outline for your project specifications. And you have to show factors that will contribute to this process of selection. Each one of these things that you can see here are, I think, really important. And many entrepreneurs may do things very differently than our class requires. Our class requires this star, the red star, make justified recommendations to improve your project. Usually startups, new business projects, and entrepreneurship courses, they don't ask you to show that. But if you don't show it, you can't pass our class. So what I'm showing right here, it's basically the last slide of day one. Make sure you're writing that, at least for the class. If you care more about the real business and not very much about the course, don't worry about it. But if you just want to pass this course, this is what you need. And all of that is just a summary of this. This idea, you can see my screen now, right? The postgraduate diploma in management studies for the project development operations. I have just summarized all of these details here. So I copied this and I put it together with this and this. This is where I put the star. And it also says you have to have your references. So make sure you have that. And then for me, I just go through and give you either a pass or a fail. And the same thing with the UK people. Whatever I suggest, I will send it off to the UK and they will check it. And they also have a chance to either pass or not pass. Make sure you do this right for this. This is your customer. Any questions for that before we get into processes and PERT charts and Gantt charts? Going once.
No, it's clear. Yeah,
Great.
clear.
So now with processes, you understand the basics of what goes into a business plan, but you also understand that it can be very complicated. And so to make it uncomplicated, you need to make it more complicated. Try to break your business project down into processes. For example, as I said, you need to do many things, and some things you start at a certain time, week 1, sometimes you'll start at week 5, sometimes it will be month 5, sometimes you won't need to do it for year 5. So start thinking of the details. Think of the structural frame. Think of the human resources frame, the symbolic frame, the political frame. The idea of structural. For example, focus on the roles and the responsibilities, coordinating and controlling your business. The human resources, focus on not just hiring people, but as I said, if you hire people and then you're nervous all the time and other people see that you're nervous, they might quit. So, and if people start fighting all the time, if you have different cultures, then they might quit again. So you might need to focus not just on hiring, but on making sure they're happy and there's harmony and the needs of the company and the needs of the people are both met. You can't just focus on you alone. Same thing for all of these things. So now there is no one answer for anyone. Everyone's PERT chart is different. Everyone's Gantt chart can be different. It's up to you, but there's many things you can think about here. So make sure you understand who is important, who is the stakeholder, who is vital for your business. Obviously, you have to make sure those people are happy with various details. And there could be many. There's obviously the project owner, there's the manufacturing manager, there's line management, there's regular real owners, customers, suppliers. All of these are, they say some of them are external. And I hope you guys understand that's kind of key. I'll come back to it as far as the system. And then inside your company, you'll have the contract manager, your quality manager, systems, project managers, many of them probably, project owners, manufacturing managers, line managers. So you have a project owner and an owner here. Why two different things? Lynn, can you answer that? Why do you have an owner here and then a project owner? What's the difference?
Linh Chung, are you here?
So the project owner, he's the internal stakeholder. He knows all about the project. While the owner, he's the owner of the project owner, and he can ask the project owner to do to have some different in his plan to meet his requirement. For
Good.
example, yes.
Go ahead. For example.
For example, if the project owner is only aims for like $50,000 for profit, but the owner he disagree with the project owner and he wants to achieve like 60,000, and then the project owner he has to revise the plan and give some development.
Good. Very good. Make sure we all understand there's a big difference between a sales owner or sales manager and a project owner. These businesses can quickly become very complicated. There could be, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, many things to think about and manage. So you can't do all of them on your own. And even if you can do all of them, you probably should not. You need to break things up into different groups of things. Like marketing should be managed with all of the marketing. And the financing, there might be some overlap, but financing should be managed separately. And the idea of getting staff and HR, all of those things are different projects. You could have a project manager for each. And then each one of them, you need to break down in many different levels. So that's what I want you guys to start thinking of right now. So why? Because even though it takes more time to make that breakdown, it ultimately will save time in the long term. So it saves time by properly planning the project and considering all factors which may affect the outcome. When you are doing things day by day, minute by minute, things change and you need to react. But if you're not following a plan, then you can easily get off topic. So you should follow the plans. Next. It will save you money. Even though it costs more to have a project manager, it's much cheaper than not planning in advance. It leads to more success. You're going to have better goals clarified. Your resources are going to be coordinated. Your risks are going to be identified. So make sure you understand it. There's lots of technical details, like you can talk about scope or schedules and resources. That whole idea of these three things, triple constraints. I don't think it's very important, but if you have the key words, it may look good if you're going to get loans, or if an investor is more focused on how well you manage these details, they may follow these things. So there's lots of details, like the scope management or the cost management, time management, quality management, human resource, communications, risk management, conflict management. All of these things, you should have a plan for each of them, and maybe have a plan for all of them combined. And that's what I want to start doing today. So think of that triple constant and how you can develop it. So as we see here, big areas for project management is the scope. What should you worry about? What should be involved? What are the issues that you need to think of with management? What are the costs of everything? How do you manage quality? You don't just start hiring, start marketing, start some details and then worry about quality later. You should plan your quality right from the very beginning. Same thing with your staffing, same thing for your marketing. You should plan all of these things very early on, maybe before you actually start making the product. Same thing for the communications. How are you going to manage these communications? We have all used Shark Tank videos. We have watched Shark Tank videos. You can see that some small businesses will create a good product or service or process, but then all of a sudden they'll get millions of dollars and millions of customers starting to contact them. How are you going to go from just an idea to serving millions immediately? You need a plan for that. You also need maybe an alternative plan for growing slowly. If you're just growing slowly and you cannot have a plan, or if you do not have a plan to provide details for millions of customers, if many customers come and they don't get served, or if you make a mistake because you're too busy, that could ruin you. You could have millions of people that are angry and they start posting on the internet that the service is bad, quality is bad, the customer service is bad. So have a plan for that stuff. So the scope, that involves a range of tasks required to accomplish program goals. It includes processes to ensure that the project includes only all the work required to complete all projects successfully. Scope is one of the three main elements that we were talking about in that constraints triangle. So what I want to focus on now is getting you guys to make some of these details. So you can go through and read all of this stuff. You see that there's a lot of details here. I am going to, here it is. So this idea of how do you break things down? Of these millions of different things, there's two things you should remember and start thinking about. A PERT chart and a Gantt chart. They're almost the same, but a PERT chart is designed to analyze and represent the tasks involved to complete the project. A Gantt chart, what you see at the bottom, is a popular type of bar chart that illustrates the project schedule. So they're similar. They're talking about how do you manage the project. Like you need number A to get to B, and then that goes to C, and then it goes to D. So one of them could take 1 month, one of them could take 3 months, but they all relate together. And so you see here these D, E, and F, they're all related. One of them takes 2 months, one of them takes 1 month, one of them takes 3 months. So you can see in the PERT chart that representation of the big picture of the chart. It's just one way. The bottom of the chart is what I want you guys to start doing today, right now. Can you break down your business plan into a chart, starting with you have 36 months that you must show details for. When are you going to start with the financing? When are you going to start with the marketing? When are you going to start with the operations or the human resources and hiring? As we were saying, who knows? Everybody's different. Your answer could be different than mine, and it doesn't mean it's bad, but you should check. So let's start and get these things written down and check. I would suggest you start by getting some clarification of not just your product, but your customer. And then who is the customer? And how can you manage that customer? And then how are you going to market to them? I think a lot of that is related to the Google Analytics, customer analytics, the Facebook analytics. They will show you what the customer wants. And then at the same time, you may need to think about your overall research. Is that the customer you want? Maybe you need to hire somebody to do different research, like your competitive advantage research or your competitor research, the market analysis research. Obviously, those types of market analysis research should obviously be done before you start investing very big amounts of money. So the answer is up to you guys. I would like to take some time to have you guys into groups to start just listing this stuff down. So hopefully you guys can see me here. You see at the top just the number of weeks. And this is just showing 13 weeks, but you guys should start and plan for 36 weeks and do all of the activities. The idea of the marketing, the idea of the market research, the idea of the financing, the hiring staff, all of these things. Put them all into a chart. You don't need to start yet. Before I take too much of your time, let's start with a different game. There are games. Where is the game that we have made? Dom, do you remember the game? I think it's right here. Yes. So let's, I'm going to go through, and for the next several slides, I'm going to introduce an idea of a game that you should all be focused on. Why is this here? So you know what a PERT chart is, the general details. You know what a Gantt chart is. A Gantt chart is the graphical representation of your schedule. It plans, coordinates, and tracks specific tasks. It's named after a guy, Mr. Gantt, long time ago. It depicts some of the same information as a PERT chart, but it also depicts new information. We showed you this. I want you to have this in your business plan eventually. An example, please pay attention closely. How can I? I'm going to try to show you these details. So in our this chart, can Dom, can you pick one student to try to take like number A or letter A? It says the task is number A. You need to study current email systems. And B is to define the end user requirement. And so there's many different tasks you need to do. And you start with day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, all the way up to day 12, or it could be week 1, week 2, week 3, all the way up to week 12. So what does this mean? Dom, can you pick one student and get him to see A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and try to just describe what we're seeing in this chart?
So can I have Mr. Hill?
Yeah, I think it's I understand maybe generally, maybe correct me. Yeah, I think it's when we describe the step, like every step, like we show how we can do it, and when we begin, when we finish, and also we see the today line. We have to compare today line with percentages completed by ourselves, because if the percentages is left of today line, that means you should improve or you should monitoring, you should improve also the task, and maybe modify some resources like human resource or the mission. And also when the percentages lie, it's the right of today lie, that means you you can complete the percentage higher than the time we wanted. And that's mean you check the quality and you check the percentages of completion of the task, and we can make decide the decision. It should improve our task, or it should modify something resources to reach the targets of
Good, thank
our
you.
plan. Yeah.
Good, thank you. So I hope everybody understands this. You need to write down every part of your business, when you're going to start it and when you're going to stop it. For example, this is a technical, like a computer, maybe Mr. Hugh, he might be developing email systems and user agreements and computer technology needed for his online e-commerce website. This could be related to him. And so we have many different things: activity A, activity B, activity C, D, E, F, G. They're all different things. You can think of activity A is your overall project idea. B, I don't know, maybe what does B stand for? Boys, hiring boys, your HR. C maybe is costs. And so I'm changing these just so that you understand them. You can have your finances you have to plan, your costs you need to plan, your hiring people, your marketing, all of these things you need to plan. And some things you will start right at the very beginning. So this very top line we see, that was the very first thing they started doing. And they went through 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of already finished. And now we're at the end of the first month. We are at the end of week 4. And so we finished this task A, setting up the current email. That's already finished. And now in week 4, we are developing task B. We're making the user requirements. We're making the class diagram. We're also acquiring the computer technology. All of these we are working on today in this week 4. But this task and this bottom task on the line, those are jobs that you have to do for work, but you don't have to do yet. You only need to start doing it around week 12. So this task is this delivering the system, or accepting the system to the customers. So what it's showing is this line today, all of these details are already finished. The time has gone by, and this project or task, it's already finished. You did it. This one, you started the project, but you didn't finish yet. This one, you started, and you have a long way to go. This one, you also started, but you have even longer, a lot more that you have to do. And these two, you didn't even start yet. So don't waste your time on these. Focus all of your energy on managing those. So the Gantt chart is listing just everything that needs to be done. And it highlights to you, even though there's a million things you need to do, where should you be focused? And it includes everything from task A, B, C. So here's a quiz for everybody. Which of these should have been completed by today, but are not even started? Can anybody answer this question here? Which, if any, task should have been completed by today and they're not started yet? Any ideas? It's a trick question. None of them. So the only one that is supposed to have been completed is this task A. And you can see this task A, it is finished. So since it's finished, we're good. Task, what is another quiz question? Which task is the next one that should be finished? Anybody want to guess that?
It's a BCD.
If there's good, so you're right. B and C and D, they also should be finished soon, but there's only one right answer. Only B should be finished first. This one here is the finish, unless there's going to be delays. And after that, what is the next one that's going to be finished? This one here, the C, this is where it finishes. So A started here and finished here. B started here and finished here. C started here, finished here. And then which one is going to be the last job you have to focus on and finish, start and finish? Anybody? What is the last task? What is the last job you need to focus on?
It's D.
The ones that you're working on now, yes, D. But the very last task, you're right. In all of the tasks you have, that would be G. Over here, you only start it at maybe week 11 and a half or at week 12. That's when you can start this very last project. So let's see. Mr. Hugh, can you take one of these other questions at the bottom and ask some of your classmates any one of these other questions?
Okay, I can ask question with classmates, right?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question like which task is the necessary and urgent for now?
Good, very good question. Who do you want to ask?
Mr. Hill, you should pick one of the classmates.
Okay, I see. Okay, it's the Mr. Hà Thanh Lê, please.
Yes, I'm here. Well, I think the most urgent task here is task B, because we have to finish it as soon as possible.
Good,
Can other
perfect.
students type the answers in the Zoom chat? Other students, the other students, the rest of the students, can you type the answers in the Zoom chat?
I might have cheated. I might have already said the answer. Sorry, I
No,
talked too much.
Professor.
Can we get another question? What about Stanley? Would you like to ask the next question?
Yes. Thanh Hà, can you pick another questions and pick another classmates?
Let me think. So what's the most important task in these 7 tasks here that you think is the most important?
Okay. What do you think is most important?
Could you be clear? Could you be clear, please? Because I think every task should be also important.
How about which one is most important based on the amount of time you need to work on it? Right. Which task takes the longest time? Sure. Who do you want to test?
Anyone want to answer my question?
Could you please come again the question and make it more clearly, because the microphone is very hard to hear.
What she was saying is, which is the most important task in the sense of time? So which task takes the most time to complete. Not which task will be completed last, or it's not the question which task is completed first, it's which task takes the longest, takes the most time. What do you think? Which task takes the most weeks to complete?
Okay, can you pick one person? Just pick the name of one classmate, and the rest of students also can type or answer in the Zoom chat.
Good idea. Type in Zoom chat. So as soon as we have at least after the first 5 answers, then I'll go on to the next part. That's one.
In my opinion, I would like to answer the question of her. They say the thing is not get a long time is about acceptance test a new system, because the new system, when it come out, we should pick a test to find out is it suitable with the organization or not. If not, we have to start again. We have to start again with the delivering new system.
Okay, so you actually are a technical expert. Okay, the question you're right. I should be more specific. Just based off of this information, based off of these tasks and this chart, what does this chart say will take the longest number of weeks to complete?
I think that's it.
Task A?
Acceptance test new system. It's like a long period of time.
Okay, good guess, but I don't think that's the right answer. I think that's actually one of the shortest, easiest tests or tasks to do. It only takes maybe 1 week to complete, 1 or 2 weeks, and you're finished it. So task A, task B, and task G all can be finished in about 1 to 2 weeks, but some of them take many, many weeks.
It's 7 weeks of task G.
Right. So this task here, this longest line, is the one that shows this is what you really have to focus on, because it already takes 7 weeks. If there's any problems, and as you said before, if you have to do it again, that's another 7 weeks to do it again. So this is a very important task. It takes a very long time. That's what we're talking about. Let's look at some other examples. So steps for building the chart. You need to identify the tasks, and that's only in your mind. The more tasks you can plan, the better. Then you need to determine how long is each task. And because of our requirement, we need to think of 36 months. And then for number 3, list each task down on the vertical axis of the chart. And in general, list the tasks to be performed first at the top, and then move down towards the bottom, whatever is going to happen. So we saw here, this should go first, then this, then this, then this, then this. That's a good idea in a perfect world. But sometimes this one started and we wrote it first, and then this was next, this was next, this was next, this was finished next. This is going to be finished the 3rd, this is finished 4th, this will finish 5th, and this will finish 6th. Great, but sometimes something will pop up in the middle that we didn't think about at the beginning, and you just have to put it in. So you can't always have it like this, but you should try. Then use the horizontal axis for the date. When do you start and when do you finish? And determine the start and finish dates for activities, considering which tasks must be completed or partially completed before the next one. So to use the Gantt, yes?
Professor, I have a question for class. If I can have it.
Sure.
If I could. I just asked question about the meaning of today line and what is limitation of Gantt charts. I have two questions about the Gantt chart
Okay.
to everyone in class.
Your first question is what is
Yeah,
the
first
meaning of
question is
today
the
or
meaning
where is
of
today?
today life,
Yes.
and second, it's the limitation of Gantt charts. Yeah, that's I think it's maybe it's not correct, but yeah, I want to ask
No,
to discuss.
it's very good to ask those questions. So this where it says today here on the chart, do you understand what this means? What does this mean? What do these numbers mean? What does this line mean? What does this line mean? What does this line? What does this mean today? Can anybody help us understand or give us a sentence related to what's happening today?
In my opinion, the today life show when it's defined as task, is so how much the task should be accomplished by today.
Okay,
Yes,
so
the percentage.
by today, anything on the left should be finished.
Yes, should be
Anything
finished.
on the right is not finished yet. Some of these things, like the bottom parts here, they didn't even start doing it yet. It's just a plan. For example, maybe your quality control or quality control testing, maybe you can only do it once you're almost finished, like your hamburger testing or getting the government approval to sell hamburgers. Maybe it can only be done after you have a license to start, and then you finish the construction and you have your restaurant already ready to open. After you have all of that stuff finished, then you can get the government approval to actually sell food. So that would be at the end. Great. What's another sentence? Just tell me anything related to today. What is happening today?
For me, I hate that line.
I hate this line. Okay.
It's a deadline.
You're right. Right. It's the most important. You're thinking, you're worrying the most about this and this and this. Great.
Yeah, I think it's correct. But what's about the limitation of the Gantt chart or today life?
The limitation, I think, when one people who have not enough experience doing this one, they may plan it wrongly about the duration of the task.
I have a PhD. And I can plan it very well, but in reality, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah,
so,
but I do not ask about the capacity of the person. I want to know the capacity of Gantt charts.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk about this Gantt? Who else can come up with an answer? Mr. Hugh, would you like to pick another classmate? Who would you like to ask?
I think one of the limitation of Gantt chart is that you just see how long that the task lasts, but you can see what inside the task. Like, yeah, in the task A, you don't see what task the small start in task A that you must do something. You just see the time, and you must like you use another tools to know to manage the small tasks that include in the task in the project. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can try the in detail for every sub task, and so it's you can again this limitation, and for me it's not big limitation, and maybe I explain for now, and please correct me. For me, it's a limitation. It's for today life. I think we can monitoring the quantity of percentages, but we don't have a tool to monitoring quality of the quality of the completion of tasks. I think it's relating to quantity and quality. Yeah.
Well, with the Gantt chart, you could have activity A, activity B, C, D, E, F, G. All of these are different projects. And you could have a project manager here. And the project manager, it's his job to do this activity and manage the quality inside. And project B could be a different project manager, and he has to do, I don't know, the marketing and manage the quality of the marketing all inside here. So each one of them, depending on how you make it, how you design it, could have quality inside. So yes, as we identified, each one of these tasks, there could be a million details, and you are just trying to break the million details down into 10 details so it's easier to manage. And so you don't know that activity A and B are connected. You don't know that A and E, F, G are all connected. They all need the same budget or the same people working on them. For example, here you can see the people working in activity B, they cannot work on activity A because these people are working at the same time. But do you understand what I'm saying? And in activity B, these people, they can start here, finish here, and then once they're finished, they can help with activity C or D or element 2, E, F, and G. They can help with any of these. But they can't help with A because it's happening at the same time. Same thing, C and D, they're happening at the exact same times. So you need to have different staff working here and different staff working here, different staff working here. So those type of things, maybe when you're hiring staff, you need to think about, you need to hire lots of staff here because they're working on this and working on this and working on this. Versus here, it's even more. When on like by today, you have the most staff working. You have staff working on activity F and staff working on summary element 2, activity D, activity C, activity A, and summary element number 1. So you have a lot of people working at today. But at the very beginning, you only have a few people working. So that's the level of detail is not really explained very much in the Gantt. That's one problem. Another problem is it doesn't show, for example, activity A and B both start the same, and this one takes 3 months, this one takes 4 months. And it doesn't say that, you know, they are connected this way. So the PERT chart is showing the same idea about how much time, this is how much time it takes, but this shows how they're connected to others. So they have to work with others. So let's go back and talk a little bit more. This is the activity here. We went through, we were talking about this. We were showing what you can use it for to work on it. Unshaded bars represent tasks that have not been started. If it's shaded already, if it's a dark color, it's not finished. Sorry, it is being worked on now. So here is your activity. Group leaders. I'm calling all group leaders. Do you guys want to work on this group, this task, all as a group? Or do you want to work on this all individually for the next, I don't know, 5 minutes? So what the task is, let me explain the task first. This is going to be, all of this information must be tasks. Like here is task A, and this is all of, let me just explain it here. So for task A, we start it at this time and we finish it here. It takes 1 hour. This takes another hour. This takes 4 hours. This takes 7 hours, 1 hour, 3 hours. This task G takes 2 hours. This task here, L, takes 4 hours. So the longest task, that question we had before, is task D, receiving the replies. And why do we have 2 different details here? Because you can't easily start B until A is finished. And so B, you're basically saying you can start B when the previous task A is finished. And C, also you can start as soon as A finishes, you can start C. Task D, you can only start after task D finishes. And it's going to take 7 weeks. But E, you have to start later, you have to start after task D finishes. So for everyone here, this is getting complicated. Task E will finish after task D, and task D takes 7 weeks, or 7 hours. So how many hours before you can start E? So the answer for that, if we work together, D has to be finished. And so we look at D, that was 7 hours. And so it's 7 hours, and then you can start E. Does that make sense? And then how many hours before task E is finished? So it's going to be 1 more hour to finish E after you've already had 7. So it's 7 plus the 1, 8 hours is required before task E is finished. Does that make sense? Any questions? How about, can you guys give me 1 or 2 questions to go through this together? And then I'd like to either have you guys work on this individually or work on this as a group. What is 1 or 2 questions to start with?
Maybe I have an idea. Everybody can work this exercise in group, and then they could present it later, just show the results, and I think it's also good for them to practice, and then they could build the Gantt chart for their business project.
Yes, that's what they generally have to do that. But I want to make sure people understand the idea, because you need to have a Gantt chart. This is showing your processes. It's showing your timeline. You need this for England, for the UK. So ask me 1 or 2 questions before we start with this, before I start giving you this task to do. Can I get 1 or 2 questions from the class?
Okay, Quân. Quân, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so Professor Walsh just explained the exercise in the slides 67 and 68. So we are supposed to do this exercise to practice how to make the Gantt chart. Do you have any questions for him before?
Make a question.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you if you have any question. I'm saying whether you have a question or not, give me a question to help the class understand details.
Yes.
I'm waiting for you to talk. I'm waiting for you to give a question.
Yes.
Go, Mr. Long. Yeah, you before.
Okay, Mr. Long, are you able to ask a question, please?
Yes. So I saw that the previous task of I is H and G. So that means we can start to do I when H and G are finished.
You can start doing I
When
after H
both,
and G are finished, right?
Both, yeah.
So this says the previous task is H, it must have been finished, and G must have been finished, and then you can do I. So right, I is decorating. So what is H and G? So H is making the food. You don't decorate until you've already made the food. And then G, you blow up the balloons maybe first. Okay, sure. After you blow up the balloons, after you make the food, then you decorate. Okay, I would do it differently, but for this project, that is correct. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What about how many hours will it take for task I to be finished? At what time on the Gantt chart can you make task I start and finish? And we have a whole class race. When does task I start and when does class, what week? Or let's say, yeah, let's just change these to weeks.
Okay, I can explain. It's
Okay.
when we finish H and Z, we can begin the task I, and the duration is 1 week. And after 1 week is finished the task I.
Right, but you're right, that's how long it takes. But my question is, on the Gantt chart, when will it start, when will it finish? So
It's
this might start at week 1, this might be at week 2, this might be at week 4. For I, what week number does it start and when does it finish?
Week 14.
Week 14? Okay, so this A is done all by itself. That's just 1 week. B, you can do it after A is finished. So this takes 1 week to start and finish. This takes 2 weeks. C is after A. So C is starting as soon as A is finished. So that's 4 weeks. So 1 week here, plus this is going to be 5 weeks. C finishes after the end of the 5th week, right?
Yeah, right.
That? And then D we have is finished after that. So D starts at the end of the 5th week. Is that right? So it starts, I'm confusing myself now. But does that mean that D starts in week 6? And it will take 7 weeks. So that means D will finish on week 13. Is that right? It starts in week 6 and finishes in week 13 because the total, it takes 7 weeks to complete this one.
Yes.
Does everybody understand?
Right, yeah.
And now E will start after week 14 and take 1 more week. So it will finish after
15.
15. And then, so now you guys understand what we're talking about, right? So F is going to happen when? When does F start? What week does F start?
No.
It's getting confusing, huh?
Week
it's 13.
The 13th week.
Didn't we say that D will take 15 weeks because it's 7 plus this?
No, 13.
13. So this is 13.
Yeah.
We're at F. Is that right?
Yeah, right.
So F will start after D, and D starts only after C. So C will take 4 weeks, and C starts right after A. So we have, let me try to show you what we're looking at. So this is finished. This is finished. Hopefully you guys can see this well. So A is finished and those are finished. You guys see what I'm doing here? All of these ones are finished. And after, why did I click C? Okay, so D, we're looking at D. So we're looking at these now. So those are finished. So it's 1 week. These start after, so that's 5 weeks finished. And then D starts after this is finished. So it's 7 plus 5, that's at 12 weeks have finished. Is that right?
Yes.
And then F starts after, what did I just say? 12 weeks?
Yeah,
and so
13.
F takes 13 more weeks, so it's going to be 15 weeks. Did you guys see my thinking style? Did you understand what I was trying to describe there?
Yes.
Would you guys like to ask one more question before you go into groups and make your own Gantt chart? How about,
I think after the questions, so we can have a short break.
yes,
We have 15 minutes break.
Bao Tran, do you have another question, one more question? Or Zoom, do you have another question?
I don't have any more question. Yeah.
What about Zoom? Zoom, are you here?
Dương.
I guess I guess there's no more questions, so it's break time. If somebody does have a question, ask me now,
Yeah.
and I'll answer it during break. But it is 25 minutes after the hour, and if I give you another 15-minute break, so at 4:40 we will. Sorry, at 40 minutes after the hour, we'll come back and we will continue talking about the rest of the presentation material. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
See you in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.